What's up?
Hey Jay, the sellers decided to go in a different direction.
What do you mean they decided to go in a different direction? We're under contract.
Yeah, but your contract expires tomorrow.
But we've been waiting on the bank. They tell me it's not going to be too much longer.
Yeah, that's the problem. We've been waiting on the bank to finish their underwriting process, and the sellers are no longer willing to extend.
Well, why are they not willing to extend? I mean, we've been under contract for 30 days now. We're so close to the finish line. Why can't they just wait?
Because they now have a backup offer, all cash, closing in 10 days.
You know, there's absolutely nothing worse than finding an amazing deal and then have a bank just absolutely screw it up. And that is exactly why I am getting serious about becoming my own bank. So I can close faster and don't have to deal with that four-letter word, B-A-N-K. If you want to know how to do that and find out what I'm doing to be my own bank, then here's an hour-long webinar with my good friend and certified financial planner, Mr. Mark Willis.
All right, guys, let's do this thing. Can you imagine writing a contract with your future? You know, if there was such a thing, wouldn't you want to know about it? Wouldn't you want to make that at least a part of your overall financial strategy, building a strategy that you can count on? We've gone through a year where, holy smokes, having a contract with my future would have been pretty awesome. If I had known, Back to the Future, when he sees that, that future, that almanac, sports almanac, he grabs that thing for his past self. Wouldn't that have been awesome to grab your future and then bring it back to your present day self? So we're going to be talking about some very specific systems. I'm going to keep this very high impact down the ladder to give you some strategies for what you can really do to build a contract with your future. So guys, if you're in a hurry, please write this down. This is the website we're going to want you to end up going to at the end. So jot down, copy, paste, whatever. Put this into the chat, Julia, if you're able to. It's w2capitalist.com/bank. That's where we're going to invite everybody to check out. Also, before you check out, like mentally that is, guys, I'm going to be offering something that I've never really done with this group before. And that is, I'm going to be saying throughout the presentation, 6 key phrases, 6 key secret phrases. And if you write those down, grab a sticky note or something, and then if you email them to me, and I'll tell you the email address at the end, if you send those 6 key phrases to me at the end of this presentation, you'll win a $50 Amazon gift card, one per household. So definitely make sure you stay to the end, because all 6 phrases will be mentioned, but you have to pay attention. That's the key. So be sure to write down this website, w2capitalist.com/bank. I'm also going to just mention, hey, I'm not going to be giving you guys, of course, any individual investment advice on a webinar. So this is the Make the Lawyers Happy slide, Jay. And then next up is, guys,
I'm upset. I'm leaving. Yeah. I came here for investing advice.
Yeah, specifically, hey, guys, I have some great GameStop and some swampland in Florida. No, I'm just kidding. So, all right, guys, just being here today with Jay and the team proves that you're on track to building yourself a better future. The W2 Capitalist community is some of the coolest people I've ever met, people on track to building a better, brighter future. And as Dan Sullivan says, you want to hang around people who remind you of your future, not your past. And I'd say that's the kind of guy Jay is and the kind of people that the W2 Capitalist community is. So if you're looking at these potential outcomes, you're in the right place. If you're looking to grow and scale your business, upgrade your personal life with 75 hard or whatever your thing is, unleash your financial potential, develop more rewarding relationships in your life, or just get in your best shape, I think this is going to be what you're onto, what you're looking for. This is the right crew to be in. Guys, if you're looking to increase your spiritual capacity or do anything that you want to make your future bigger than your past, you've got to fight against 2 very important fundamental universal laws. The 2 laws that are waging war against your better and brighter future are the universal law of gravity and the law of entropy. So we see gravity and entropy all over the evening news and on our Facebook feeds and Instagram. We see bitter strife between classes of people, divisions between races, ethnic groups, the haves and the have-nots, political divisions, genders, so much division in our world today. We almost don't even need to talk about it, right? The world itself, the like Mother Nature seems focused, laser focused on destroying us with viruses, climate catastrophes, just the fundamental nature of our aging bodies, for goodness sakes. And I'm going to go ahead and pile on here. Our relationships feel the effect of entropy. If you don't develop and invest in your relationships, they're going to drift apart. It's like two bamboo shoots. If they're moving in opposite directions, they're just going to be gone over time, away from each other. And our personal development is like waging war against gravity and entropy. My skills in violin, holy smokes, French, that was a waste of 4 years of high school because they've dramatically fallen because I didn't invest in them further. The law of entropy certainly has had its way with my French skills. Jay.
I want to make sure I understand you correctly. You're a violin player?
Was a violinist. Yeah. Almost went to school for it.
Really?
Yeah. A long time ago.
I would have lost money on that one. I would have never guessed.
You would have lost money on the bet. I would have lost money on the degree if I'd gotten that. Because, and to that point, it was a very fast end to my career as a violinist. It was a quick jump into a shallow swimming pool that ended that journey. Broken hand doesn't really do very good for Stravinsky or whatever. So
I gotcha.
So our businesses, guys, our business left alone, the law of gravity, the law of entropy is going to rip that business to shreds. It's going to rip your rental properties to shreds, competitors, lawsuits, heck, just the property taxes to feed that property, that real estate property will eat itself alive if you're not actively working on building profit first into your business. So the law of gravity, for those unaware, quickly brings things down. And the law of entropy rips things apart. That's kind of the basic notion. Not exactly a rosy picture of our future, right? So left alone, the universe seems hell-bent on ripping things to shreds. As Robert Burns has said, the best laid plans of mice and men still go wrong. So guys, keyword number one, for those listening, secret phrase number one is gravity. Gravity. Okay, so what about financial risks? Financial risks. What are the risks that you'd like to know more about? Put them into the chat as you're looking at this, guys. What are some of the things that you're most concerned about as you look at the page here? If there's one on this list, write it in the chat right now. Or if there's something I missed, put that in the chat. Now, I couldn't even squeeze all of mine on here. These are the ones that I came up with, but these are all the financial risks that we're all exposed to, whether we realize it or not. So let's see. Yeah, be sure to put your questions and comments into the chat box. Who here relates to one of these financial risks? Take a moment and write them down. All right. Who we got here? All right. Someone said longevity risk. Yeah. Doesn't that sound like a weird risk to live a long life? Doesn't that sound like a blessing and not a risk? Yeah. Yeah. It's great.
I want to mention a couple. Tax rate risk.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, as real estate investors, there's a lot of legislation coming out or potentially coming out that could definitely be an issue for us. So that, and then healthcare risk. We can't get away from this webinar and not talk about healthcare with what's going on in today's climate for sure.
Yeah, big time. So true. Yeah. Very good. Yeah, guys, the one that really caught my attention for whatever reason today was unexpected financial responsibility. How many of us are going to have our parents move back in with us? How many of us are going to have Boomerang kids move back in after college? I don't know. That's the trouble. That's the risk. While it's a great thing to be able to shelter and house our loved ones, they're going to be sitting on that couch. They're going to need to be fed every day, right? So that's an unexpected financial responsibility you didn't count on, or most of us don't count on. So keep an eye out for these risks, guys. These are the things that tear us apart and pull us down. Now, as Neil Bohr says, prediction is very difficult, especially if it's about the future. So, obvious quote there, right? It's a great quote, but it has dramatic ramifications. There's a lot about the world we just don't know and we cannot control. And a lot of that world fights against us. Again, gravity and entropy are the default modes of the entire universe. So what does gravity, what does entropy have to do with you? Now, there are an infinite number of risks that can take you out. How many times have you met that elderly person where you look into their eyes and you can just tell that they gave up on life? They've been taken out by, what was once a hopeful and promising future in their eyes. The sparkle of the future has been replaced by the eyes of regret and disillusionment. That's the unfortunate truth of gravity and entropy. So where is the hope? I'm going to go ahead and throw a concept out here that humanity has a very unique gift in the universe. Humanity's unique gift is very remarkable. In fact, the gift is to get and envision a better and bigger future. That's what we're all here to do. Nobody here is just here just to get by. You're not on this webinar just to squeak by another week. We're all here right now to improve ourselves. So first of all, congratulations on taking that step. And you've locked in a better future just by the nature of your showing up here. I mean, really, 80% of the work is just pulling up your pants and showing up. Jay knows that more than any of us. So had to throw that in there. Sorry, Jay.
Today it's sweatpants, by the way.
Yeah, all right. Rock on, man. But there's more to it than just sweatpants, guys. I promise. So how do we do it? What's the system? If it's more than sweatpants, what do we do? How do we enshrine this gift of a better, unique future? I believe we do it with a contract. Okay. So a contract is the key to bettering and envisioning your future. So a contract is the promise and commitment of a future. Guys, can you imagine a financial contract where you had a commitment to your financial outcomes? In the midst of the financial laws of gravity and entropy, wouldn't it be a relief to have something that could shield you against that uncertain future? Is that even possible to do? I mean, think about it. Without the technology, and that's what it is, the technology of a contract, we don't have much hope for a financial future at all. A few weeks ago, I was actually sitting down with a man over Zoom, and we were having a conversation about his real estate portfolio. He was very proud of his portfolio. He had built up 10 properties, and he was expecting a cash flow in his net income of 200 grand a year, net income off these 10 properties. That's pretty darn good. And he was cleaning up, in his opinion, with real estate. And he was all in. He had no other assets, no other really, savings, IRAs, nothing like that. It was all dealt in real estate because, his words, he could see it and put his hands on it. He knew the value of the bricks, the mortar, and the tile and grout. I didn't disagree with him at all. Real capital is the foundational element of society and an economy. Okay. However, in just the interest of having a keen conversation to help us think a little different, I brought up the fact that, what would happen if he didn't have a deed on the properties that he owned outright? And he had no contract, let's say, with the tenant who was paying him rent every month. What would happen? What would happen to all that real estate? And it didn't take him very long, but after he thought about it for even a second, he said, hey, Mark, this real estate empire I've built is built on not on wood and bricks and stone and nails. It's built on paper, the paper of a contract. Without the contract to protect him, what good is the ownership of that real estate? Without a contract, all we have with real estate is a bunch of squatters' rights. Squatters' rights, shotgun rights. Okay. So keyword number 2, secret phrase number 2 is the word contracts. Contracts. Write that down if you're thinking about that $50 gift card. Okay. So as I was walking down this old museum here in Chicagoland, right downtown Chicago, up the street from the University of Chicago, there's this really cool museum, the Ancient Art. It's the Oriental Institute of Chicago, Ancient Oriental Institute of Chicago. They have all this old cooking ware and cuneiform tablets from thousands of years ago, stuff from like ancient Mesopotamia, from Hezekiah's day. I mean, super cool old mummies. I'm a big nerd for stuff like this. And along the side wall, sort of in the back of the museum, I was really surprised to find this 20-foot long parchment paper. And I took this photo because underneath the parchment was a placard that described the parchment as an annuity contract from 365 BC. So, wow, first of all. So what is this annuity contract? It's very likely it was a soldier's pension in the early Roman army, probably a soldier's pension. Annuity contracts have been around since the Roman Empire. And I've always tried to envision this first annuity lunch seminar that some guy in a toga was walking around like talking about this too good to be true product where you get paid for the rest of your life as people pulling money or pulling food off the Roman buffets. For annuity buying Romans, the word annua actually meant annual payments, and that's where the annuity word comes from. Now, this is basically a guaranteed income for this soldier's life. As long as this guy lives, he's going to get paid. That's pretty cool. I don't even know a rental property that lets me do that. But we're not here to focus on annuities, whether they're a good idea or not. Sometimes they are, sometimes they aren't. The focus of what I really want to drill in on right now is just this concept of a contract. I mean, imagine what it felt like for this soldier to walk home, walk in the door, show this to his spouse and his kids, and say, hey guys, I got all the income we're ever going to need for as long as we live. That soldier was a proud soldier. He had on ink and parchment the fact that he would never run out of income, even if he ran out of money. That's pretty cool. So the Romans got a lot wrong, obviously. Where are they today? But they certainly figured out the part of the financial future in the contract. They figured out that this part of your financial life built around a contract really works. So maybe they know something that we've all since forgotten. So I want to get into this idea of a system beyond the mindset, beyond the skill set. Obviously, we're talking a lot about mindset, but we're going to get into a specific system. I'd like to start at the bottom rung of this ladder, move our way up. So let's start with a very practical system, some tangible, practical strategies and systems we can use in our daily lives to help us move forward. So if you want to write a contract with your future, you can just sit there in your room alone, dreaming up the kind of life you want to have. You can do that. Jim Carrey, famous actor, comedian, in 1985, before he got huge famous, he wrote himself a check for $10 million. And in the memo line, he wrote, for acting services rendered. That's so cool. He put that check where he would see it every single day. He worked hard to land gigs in Hollywood. He put that contract with himself where he could see it. But then he didn't stop there, did he? It wasn't just on his vision board and then he went about his day, at the factory. No, he went out into the world and built real relationships and wrote real contracts with other human beings. And that's where the action is. That's where the action is. As Sir John Hartgrove says, until it's on paper, it's vapor. Until it's on paper, it's vapor. So Jim Carrey couldn't just stop with writing himself a little contract on a pretty vision board or on a nice looking blank check. He had to get out there and get real contracts with real people to make real things happen, put real money into real bank accounts. And that's what you have to do too. That's what we all have to do too. Money is actually just the relationship you have with other people. It's a way of trading what you have with what you want. That requires a relationship of trust. Isn't that what a contract is? A relationship of trust? Every dollar bill in your wallet or on your bank account statement is a little contract saying you did a good job earning someone else's trust. That's what money is at the end of the day, among other things, of course. So contrast contracts with financial products that are held in isolation. All right. Privately picking up, choosing stocks, bonds, mutual funds, index funds, ETFs, as I call them. Jay, I refer to these as amateur retail investment products, basically just the amateur stuff that you can buy and sell on Wall Street. This can be done in isolation in your 401k on a Friday night at 10 o'clock at night, no contract necessary. Too many financial products restrict us like a plant outgrowing its pot. They keep us from growing. It's like a pot on a counter. The plant won't grow beyond what the pot will allow. So what is the pot in your financial life? Well, I'm going to say it's fees on investment products, taxes, market volatility, 401ks, IRAs, brokerage accounts, the things that have stifled the last generation that really were the experienced experimenters with Wall Street. For example, fees. The Employee Benefit Research Institute found that only half of 401k participants even believe that they have fees, but those same participants have a fee of 1.9%. 1.9%. Okay, so what does a fee do to your retirement accounts? Well, I hope you're sitting down. The Department of Labor says fees of only 1% can slash your retirement nest egg by 28% over the next 35 years. That's a third of your money gone just to fees. Nuts, nuts. All right, volatility is the next pot that keeps your money from growing. Volatility. During the last 30-year period, third-party research firm Dalbar says that the leading independent unbiased investment performance of real investors in the stock market was, are you ready for it? What was the real return of actual investors over 30 years? It was only 3.8%. Yeah, thank you, Jay. Department of Labor, DOL, Department of Labor. Dalbar writes a annual quantitative analysis of investor behavior study. So, Google the words QAIB and then Dalbar 2020, and you'll see these results, 3.8% over 30 years. Over 30 years in the stock market for 3.8% average return. Where's Dave Ramsey's 12%, guys? Can anybody show me? I have yet to see it. Okay, so keyword number 3, secret phrase number 3 is volatility. Volatility. I will accept various spellings of that word. Don't worry. Volatility. I'm not sure I could spell it if I didn't look it up. Taxes is the next one, guys. Not the next secret phrase, but the next pot that restricts us is taxes. Biggest selling point of 401ks is that they defer your taxes. Tax deferred does not mean tax-free. Okay, so that is a big wake-up call to a lot of people. In fact, the Boston College Center for Retirement Director, Alicia Munell, says it's a very big deal when people find out that they only get 2/3 of their 401k or their IRA. 2/3, and where's the other third go? Oh yeah, the IRS. The IRS. And many people think taxes are going up, which means this might even go in a worse direction. Okay, so how can we break out of the pot, the potted plant, and become something that sets us free? Now, if we're going to thrive over the next 10 years, over the next 50 years, whatever your time horizon is, guys, we've got to think of a way to break free. Break out of the old and go try something new. We have to learn to think different, live different with our money, our economy, and our future. So there are some financial tools, contracts available in the marketplace that can help us achieve what we're trying to do without going insane. We need not a potted plant, but we need more of a lattice. If you're into gardening, you know what I mean. A lattice is sort of an exterior wall or a chain in this case, or a fence that our plant can climb up and grow on and multiply on. It's like grapes on a vine. If all you have is just grapes, they're going to be, wiggling and writhing on the ground, not really surviving and thriving. But if you give that grapevine something to climb, like a lattice or a tree or something, it's going to survive, it's going to thrive, it's going to multiply. You're going to have a harvest with a little bit of structure, like a contract. Your money can survive, thrive, and reproduce as well. You need a contract for your money to survive, for it to thrive, and for it to reproduce. So let's take a look at this, guys, because where you put your money makes it act different. If I put my grapevine in a pot, it's going to act different than if I put it in the ground across a lattice that can span 10 acres, right? So where you put your money makes it do different things. So where you plant your money will impact your financial future. What kind of future do you want? What kind of future do you want? So if you want to build a financial lattice that'll help you reproduce your money into an abundant harvest, you need a few things. From my research as a certified financial planner, certain financial products do better than others with helping you build a contract with your future. In fact, here are a few things that came to my mind. We need a few things. We cannot let it be so complex that only the most sophisticated people can use it. Financial derivatives and the like are just not going to work. You need a simple solution all of us can use. 2, we need it to be a safe storehouse for real wealth, not just subject to the whims of the stock market. We need real wealth, not paper gains and losses. We need to be able to access the cash for any reason, not just a storehouse of wealth, but also a place accessible enough where we can use it and employ it without a bunch of penalties and taxes. And then, we need a place where we can build a system where the outcome of our financial life would be determined before we even began. If we're truly writing that future, we need to have a predictable outcome with a productive and consistent rate of return, so we'd know with absolute certainty what our financial future would look like. Wouldn't that be cool? If at age 65, you'd look it up and you'd say, okay, on my contract, it says my net worth is $10 million. Wow. Wouldn't that be cool? That's the kind of future we're talking about. Okay, so money is a way to convert something you need in the future into something you can hold in your hands right now. Money is a way to convert something you need in the future into something you can hold in your hand right now. So say, for example, you need to buy some wheat. You want to bake some bread. You want to bake today's bread, but you also know you're going to be hungry next year, so you want to get some wheat for then as well. And you see the price of wheat going up. What could you do? Well, you could say, I'm going to buy all the wheat I need for the next 10 years, 50 years, and I'm going to buy it all right now. But because if I wait to buy it, the price is going to go up. But the problem is, where do you store all that stinking wheat? Where do you store it where it doesn't go bad and rot on you, right? Commodities are bulky, they're perishable. You can't just buy them years in advance before you actually need them. So what we need, and what farmers have used for years, is something called a futures contract. Now, a futures contract, just in plain simple terms, is like paying a small fee now in order to buy something at a guaranteed future later. Okay, so you get a guaranteed price later on, but you pay a small fee for that guarantee today. If you knew that wheat prices were going to go up in the future, you could lock in your lower price today by paying a small fee and then receiving the wheat at a lower price in the future when you need it. That's a futures contract. Now, futures contracts are really just insurance contracts. When you get a futures contract, you're insuring against the cost going up too high in the future. So we're going to return to futures contracts in just a moment. Let's keep moving here for a moment. Now, most of us here today, I'm going to guess, are not wheat farmers. Most of us probably don't have a need for a lot of futures contracts in our personal lives or our retirement plans. But what about the benefits of knowing for certain when your child is 18 years old that you're going to have enough cash ready to send them to college? What about knowing the money is going to be there every time you need to buy a new car or a vacation or real estate property? Or what about a peaceful, stress-free retirement that's locked in, saved for, solved for, with a minimum guaranteed net worth on the day you plan to tap into it? That sounds like the kind of futures contract I'm talking about, right? What if we could prepare for all of our life's financial milestones without gambling it on elements of the market you cannot control? If you knew the outcome of the story and you knew what it would take to get there, wouldn't that motivate you and even excite you to get up at like 5 a.m. every day like Jay does? Come bounding toward your goals with reckless abandon and absolute confidence and certainty that you'd reach the goal? Right on. I know there are a lot of cash farmers here today, but any crop farmers tuning in, Jay asks. That's great. Love it, man. So guys, wouldn't that be awesome? Wouldn't that get you motivated? Get me motivated. I'm getting revved up just thinking about it. Most financial mainstream products fall far short and disappoint us. They're riddled with market volatility and fees and taxes. I've met more people who have sweat through their lifetime of work and toil and don't have much money to show for it. Guys, if you swing a dull axe against a tree, you could spend your entire lifetime putting a dent in that poor tree, but you'd never cut it down if you're not using the right tool. And no matter what the effort, you'll only exhaust yourself in the process with a dull axe. So, are there any financial vehicles out there where you could write a contract with your own future, where the outcome is determined before we even begin? Okay, so secret phrase number 4, future. The word future. Write that word down. Brandon says, I want a sharp axe. Rock and roll. Guys, here's a screenshot. If you're taking screenshots, you might take a shot of this one. This is a good one. And also the next slide. This is just a quick snapshot of what are out there in terms of just some of the characteristics of where your money could go. Of course, it's not a complete list, but it's a good little starter list. So you got checking and savings, CDs, bond funds, term insurance, fixed annuities. You get the picture, precious metals, gold, et cetera. And then a list of characteristics for what the money would do in those certain categories. Here's another part 2 of the same slide: common stock, variable annuities, universal life, exchange traded funds, 401ks, IRAs. Is it any wonder that all of us have 401ks and IRAs when so few of our check marks are on that list? I mean, if you look at the list of the vertical list there on the far left, and you ask yourself, do I want my money doing these things? Predictable results, competitive rate of return, liquidity, no government involvement. And then look at how few check marks are on this in the previous slide. Now, I was surprised when I was doing my due diligence as I was going through my training and resources to become a financial professional in CFP, to find that participating whole life insurance checked all the boxes. Participating whole life insurance, of all things. So guys, I want to dive into this concept of dividend paying or participating whole life insurance. We'll call it bank on yourself type policies for this presentation. But bank on yourself as a method uses a little known form of a supercharged version of an asset in the financial universe that has increased in value every single market condition through thick and thin, boom and bust, for over 160 years. So this is whole life insurance. But guys, I got to quickly say, it's not the kind of whole life that Dave Ramsey and Susie Orman love to hate on. This is typically done with more augmented and modernized type policies that honestly, they either don't know about or they're not talking about on the radio shows. So very plainly, a dividend paying whole life insurance is an insurance contract. It's a contract against a more expensive future. The cash value grows on a guaranteed basis. For certain what the cash value is going to be next year and the next year and the next year. So it is much like a futures contract for wheat. It's got a predictable future value. So the whole life contract has a predictable future value as well every single year. If inflation rears its head, like in the 70s and 80s, whole life actually would return to double-digit growth as it did in the late 70s, early 80s. But most of the time, it's going to be a steady, boring, predictable return. Also growing, not just the cash in the policy, but the death benefit too, to keep up with your family's needs as you might have a need to leave a legacy for them. So the insurance contract has a cash value, which is money you can spend on this side of heaven, on this side of the grass. And you can use it for any reason. We're going to get into that in a minute. But keep in mind that this is a store of value because there's a guaranteed price of a future value built right into this contract. All right. So dividend paying whole life insurance is a contract against that more expensive future. It does require, the whole life policy requires you to have some added features that maybe only 1 in 1,000 financial representatives even understand. A large portion of the premium goes into a special rider that helps the cash value grow like massively faster, somewhere between 8 and 40 times more cash value in the first few years, especially. So there's a lot of people on the YouTubes and the interwebs talking about strategies that use cash value life insurance. You might have heard it called bank on yourself, but it might also have been called infinite banking, income for life, the 770 bank account, 702J, the president's account. Guys, I got to just say it right now. If your policy was designed by someone other than a bank on yourself professional, you could lose a lot of the growth potential on the policy, or you could have some massive tax problems, or both of those things at the same time. It's sort of like engineering. If you get a knockoff iPhone from China or whatever, it does not mean you have an iPhone. If you buy a bag of grapes and it says all natural on those grapes, it's not the same thing as USDA organic. So I found, really, if you want to get the right design from the right insurance company and constructed the correct way and managed properly, you got to work with a bank on yourself professional who knows what they're doing when they set these policies up from the start. So we'll get into that in a minute. But you also want to work with an insurance company that's been around for over 100 years to make good on these promises. You're going to live another 100 years, guys. I believe in you. All right. I believe in Jay. After 75 hard, he's got at least 75 more years to go. So
okay, Mark, let's time out. Longevity is not in my future. I'm just looking at the history of my grandparents. No.
Well,
Thank you for the confidence.
I'm rooting for you, man. Yeah. Well, so anyway, you've got a powerful company backing you. It's not just little old me talking about these promises, this guarantee, these contracts with your future. Who am I, right? I mean, the bus will come for me someday too. Jay, my DNA has a end to the story as well. But these insurance companies have outlasted all of us through thick and thin. I was reading the other day, these guys have already been through pandemics back in 1918 and beyond. So one of the key pieces I wanted to bring up here on this page oftentimes catches people's attention. And so I want to mention it directly. You're able to bypass banks, finance, and credit card companies altogether, and you can become your own source of financing for cars, vacations, college education, investing in real estate. You can get the money for any reason simply by asking for it. In fact, guys, a simple phone call or a web request to the insurance company says, hey, I want 100 grand. I want 200 grand, whatever your cash value, you're able to access. Usually 85 to 90% of your cash can be accessed and sent to you within about a week or two with no questions asked. In fact, folks like Walt Disney, Ray Kroc, J.C. Penney have all used this same method to grow their businesses when banks stop lending. So that's huge, massive. If we're about to see any kind of downturn in the market, banks are going to tighten up again. So who are the people who are going to be able to take advantage of the deals that'll inevitably be making themselves available in tough market conditions? It's the people with cash. It's the people with access to capital to become their own banker when banks stop lending. So you want to access the money in the plan, you can do it. Simple 2 questions. How much do you want? When do you want it? I guess, and where do you want it sent? If you want a third question there. So there's no government penalties, no restrictions. You get whatever you need out of your policy. There's no questions asked, no underwriting, financial underwriting, to get the loan, no credit check, whatever. I hope I'm making my point clear there, Jay.
You are, and one of the things I want to point out. So I'm under contract with a partner on a 16 unit, and we're getting to the point where we got to order we went through the inspections, got to order the appraisal, whatnot. And he and I were talking last night, and I was like, man, I'm about a year away of having, or 2 years away of having the cash value in my life insurance policy. And then I could tap into that, use it as the down payment for these 16 units. And I was like, so that's kind of the things that I'm getting excited about. I said,
yeah,
unfortunately, I can't do anything about it today, but we're almost there to where we wouldn't have to go get any other money whatsoever.
Wow.
It's just
Wow.
us. And I was like, so we're almost there, but a few more deals between here and there, and we'll be able to use it for that. And it's exciting. It's exciting to think about not having to deal with banks, and particularly exciting for me. Anyway,
love it, Jay. Sir. That's awesome, man. Well, think of what you just said. You have a contract with your future, don't you? Future you is doing his happy dance because there's nothing you can do to stop that. That money is going to continue to grow, come hell or high water. No pandemics, market crashes, whatever can get in the way of that future for you, man. So that's awesome. That's so cool. And by the way, I need a loan. So no, I'm just kidding. No, that's it, right? Because if you're going to bank on yourself, other people might want to start banking on Jay too. The bank of Jay can be really for any purpose, including your kid's college or your buddy who needs a loan, right?
Yeah. And I've jokingly, which I think we're actually I'm just going to start calling it the Helms Family Bank, right? The HFB. And, we've done some private money lending this year, but it was all cash, right? But every time that's happened, I've come back and I've thought, you know what, in a couple of years, I can do this with my bank on yourself funds, right? My cash value of that. So exciting stuff ahead for the HFB, the Helms Family Bank.
Ooh, yeah. There's a book out there, guys, if you want to find it on Amazon. A client told me about it this morning out in Utah. This guy, he's telling me about this book. It's called The National Bank of Dad. So you might check that book out, The National Bank of Dad. I haven't read it yet, but I heard it's pretty good from a client. So guys, let's talk about what you can do even in the first year. So this is a guy he's 35 when he gets started. He's putting in $1,500 a month. Okay. So that's 18 grand a year. And at the end of the year one, he's already got $11,000. What could you do with $11,000 in your home, in your vacation, fixing up your car, fixing up your HVAC system on your rental property, right? Even in the first year, he's got $11,000. Okay. Now realize very clearly he's got some expenses that came out. He gave 18 grand in the first year. He's got 11,000 by the end of year one. That means his expense was somewhere around 7 grand. Now, what did it buy him? That 7 grand bought him this death benefit of $648,000 to the family. That is an asset on their balance sheet as a family. So it does not end there, does it? This is a contract with his future. Every year, the policy gets more and more valuable. Look at year 3, he's got a cash value of $40,000. And in year 4, he's got a cash value of $58,000, $58,691 to be precise, which of course is more than the annual 18 grand he paid that year. Wow. Wait a minute. So he gave in year 4, he gave them $18,000, just like he's always done, $1,500 times 12. 18 grand in year 4. The growth of his cash in year 3 to year 4 was 18,600. So who is paying who for this policy? Well, he gave 18 grand in year 4. They gave him an increase of cash that year of $18,600 plus the death benefit of over 800 grand at this point. Now he's still recouping some of the expenses from years 1, 2, and 3 in the following years, but he's already got 40 grand in cash and then 58 grand and 78 grand and so on. I mean, when would you like to tap some of this money for your real estate deals? And this guy's is totally proportional. Your numbers are going to be different. You might have half these numbers. You might add a 0 to all these numbers, but they're all proportional to your circumstance, of course. Let's go all the way down to age 70 where he says, I'm ready to retire. So he's got at that point $1.2 million in cash, $1.2 million in cash. And he's able to take out $60,000. And by the way, the income tax law says that money can come out income tax free. 60 grand a year, tax free money until he's 95 years old. Oh man, I like that. Now let's look at the same guy doing the same thing, but now he's going to take loans for $35,000 starting in year 4. He'll take a loan for 35 grand. Maybe it's for a down payment on a rental property, or maybe it's just, for a vacation or car or whatever. But regardless, hopefully it's a smart choice like a cash flowing asset like real estate. But every 5 years, he pays that loan off. A lot of clients will use their rent money to pay off this loan, put it right back into the policy and borrow it right back out again every 5 years. And what I want to point you to is down here at age 70, this man still has $1.2 million ready to go in retirement, even though he had accessed the money 6 times over his working years. And he's got 6 cash flowing real estate deals, presumably. He's now got $1.2 million in cash value, a $2.1 million death benefit, and he's still able to enjoy a tax-free income of 60 grand a year. Now, isn't that awesome? Isn't that a future where he can sit back and say, yep, it's coming, and there's nothing I can do to stop it? That's so cool. So guys, if this is so good, why isn't everybody doing it? Well, as Jay already mentioned, bank on yourself takes a little patience, takes a little discipline. It's not a get-rich-quick scheme. This is a contract with your future, not with Saturday night, okay? Don't write a contract with Saturday night. There's a great quote out there. It says, rich people plan for 4 generations and poor people plan for Saturday night. So this is a long-term financial strategy. Almost half of all boomers are not expected to have enough money to even cover basic living expenses in their retirement. So if you want to be weird in a good way, you got to think long range. So there are insurance costs every year, but as I showed, around year 4 or 5 or so, the policy starts growing annually faster than you're contributing to it. So the premiums of dividend-paying life insurance are going to be higher than your term insurance. That's also a thing to keep in mind. And remembering, of course, that FOMO will kick in. You will see the GameStops of the world lighting up your newsfeed, and you're going to wish you had jumped over there or jumped over here with the next shiny object. So bank on yourself gives you great flexibility where you can hop out, hop in to different opportunities as you find them, or cover an emergency if you have one. All right. So let's see our time. I'm keeping an eye on our time here. I'm going to zip through this quickly so I don't miss any of I'm making sure I don't miss any of our secret phrases. So this is something called the volatility buffer. So guys, I'm going to just point this to you very briefly. If you want to go back and look at this, if we have time at the end, we can. But I want to encourage you to look at these numbers with me for a second. Here's a gentleman who's 65 years old, and he has $2 million in a normal IRA, just market-based stock market, $2 million set aside, ready to go. But unfortunately, he needs to live on it now. He's 65, so he's going to take 150 grand a year out of this IRA to live on. And the bad news is he's got a couple of market crashes in those first 2 or 3 years, such that by the time he's 80, in just 15 years from now, he's now already down to less than half of what he started with in just 15 years. In fact, he's down almost to half in 3 years. Look at that. He lost $1 million in 3 years because of his withdrawals for groceries and gas, and because of the market throwing him a wild sucker punch in those first 3 years of his retirement. Nasty. Talk about a, unpredictable future. So what if instead you were able to have at least 4 or 5 years of living expenses set aside in your after-tax whole life policy? In the bad years of the stock market, you could spend your money out of the whole life policy and save your IRA so it can rebound. That's what this gentleman does. In the down years of the market, he takes some money out of his whole life insurance and does not touch his IRA, giving it a year to rebound, which it normally does the next year. By doing it this way, he's got almost $3.8 million rather than being shy $1 million. This was the old numbers. Without the volatility buffer, he had 941 grand left. And just by having a couple years saved in his whole life policy and having a market-based IRA, look at how much better his retirement prospects are going into his 80s. Okay, so I think that's. Okay, we'll keep moving here. So the secret of scaling. I want to talk about this quickly. This presentation is about building a pathway to scale. So think about what it takes to scale. It's really just doing the same thing over and over again, building on last time's success. That's how you go from small to big. And there's a client who says, Dan Proskauer, a client of a colleague of mine, he says, Mark, it was when I realized with these type of bank on yourself policies that when I put money into things that don't lose money, I'll only make money. That was the light bulb moment for Dan when he said, Mark, when you put your money in things that don't lose money, you only make money, and you're not constantly tripping over your efforts. So, I'm going to keep harping on Jay's great work on the 75 hard because I'm secretly just envious of that super cool achievement. He had daily gains of 1%. It was not a thrilling moment the first probably 5 weeks, whatever, of being on that scale, Jay, watching your fat percentage, whatever you were doing. It was boring. It was hard. But every day you had maybe you had a 1% improvement, and you said no to the potato chips, no to the cheesecake, and you said yes to the double workouts. That was an aggregation of marginal gains. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yep.
So
I will admit though, and just being completely transparent, I purposely chose a diet where I could eat cheesecake and potato chips if I wanted to.
Nice.
I limited myself on calorie intake, but it is definitely carried over because now when I go to eat something like, oh, how many calories? Anyway, getting off topic here, but yes, it was a steady improvement over time for sure.
Well, it's those small steps while never breaking the chain of yesterday's success. That's what you do with your health. That's what you do with your finances. I don't care if you hit it out of the park with a couple of stocks every so often. I'd rather you be continuing to get singles and doubles. And that's what this whole life policy lets us do. So if we're going to do this thing, guys, if we're literally going to wage war against the universe, the two laws of the universe of gravity and entropy, we're going to have some serious ammunition. And I would recommend that we do what nature does to fight against gravity and entropy. Nature itself has built a system that helps nature fight against gravity and entropy. In fact, I'd suggest we partner up with the entire universe to fight these laws. The entire universe has a fractal nature. Typically nature designs itself around a center. So it's a pattern around a center. If you think about it, from the spiraling arms of a galaxy to the orbiting planets of a solar system, to the branches of a tree, to the petals of a flower, to the strands of your DNA inside every cell in your body, to the nucleus of an atom and electrons floating around it, the pattern is everywhere. The pattern's everywhere. Shouldn't that be a clue that we can look into this as a financial solution as well? Even shapes we use like triangles and rectangles, they're all fractals. They're all patterns around a center. If this is a coincidence, I don't think so. Or maybe it's a clue on how we can wage war against these mortal enemies of gravity and entropy. So guys, keyword number 6. Number 6 is fractals. Fractals. Okay. So let me go on to all right. So this is, as we're coming into a close here, DNA is life's fundamental contract, the fundamental contract with the future. Your body is repeating that pattern over and over again, 300 billion times a day. That's how many cells are created in your body every single day. And I'm just checking, Jay, did I say secret phrase 5? Yeah, so I don't think I said.
I don't think you did, okay. Man. I've got a blank spot right here by number 5. So
it's compound growth. Compound growth. All right, right on. I missed that. Sorry. Compound growth, everybody. You rock. You rock.
By the
Jay.
way, am I eligible for the $50?
Oh yeah. Yeah. You got to spell volatility right though. Only you.
Okay, right. I'm out.
All right. So yeah, compound growth is number 5, and 6 once more was fractals. Fractals, not Fraggle Rock, just fractals. DNA, guys, is the fundamental contract we have with our future. It's your body's repeating pattern around a center. It's saying no to gravity, no to entropy. Every time your body reproduces DNA. DNA even looks like a lattice. I don't know if that makes sense to you, but go back to that grapevine analogy for a minute. And DNA is accessible, okay? It's easily accessible, just like we need our money to be easily accessible. We need to access our DNA so we can copy it, multiply it. We need our money to be easily accessible, but we need it to be a safe storehouse. We need our very personal DNA information to be safely stored away from things like, gamma rays and other stuff that are not so healthy for us. So consider the promise and contract written inside every single acorn. If you look at an acorn, you're not going to think to yourself, wow, this looks a lot like an oak tree, but it's a future contract. The acorn has a future contract. The DNA inside that little acorn says, I'm going to become an oak tree, and there's nothing this world can do to stop me. So, you guys can do the same thing with your money. It's very practical. So the key phrase here, or the key next step as we're wrapping up, is you got to sit down with a true professional to write up your contract. If you've ever sat down with a real estate closing or done a trust for your family, you're not just sitting down with Uncle Steve, who may or may not have, your best interest at heart or the best expertise. You really want to work with someone who has an expertise in this particular type of contract. Only a handful of life insurance companies offer the right policies that have to have dividends paid for over 100 years. They have to be among the financially strongest companies in the world. Guys, don't end up with a YouTube advisor or an, oh yeah, I can do that for you advisor, someone who's rifling through Google or a book you might have read last Tuesday to try to figure out how to make this work for you. There's only 200 Bank on Yourself professionals in the United States and Canada, and we'd be happy to help you write that contract with your future beginning right now, beginning today. So again, you can scale your future, but you've got to write your contract today. It is the seed of your future. It's the DNA. So our page to go to, Jay, one more time, is w2capitalist.com/bank.
That's it. And basically when you land on that site, there's going to be some information there. Thank you, Julia, for putting it in the chat, which will be a time for you to schedule. There will be a place for you to schedule some time with Mark and do a consult. And I'll tell you, so I put this in the chat. I meant to lead off with this and I did not, but Mark is my certified financial planner. He is a guy, he came on the W2 Capitalist podcast and I was like, all right, I now get this whole bank on yourself concept, and I didn't before. And so I will tell you, I'm not going to say other bank on yourself professionals because I don't necessarily know any of the others, but I do know some who talk about whole life insurance policies and also some who talk about the infinite banking concept. And they are pushy salesmen. Matter of fact, Martin, you probably need to thank them because they kept pushing me away with their tactics to you. And I mean, eventually I landed with you. And it was one of those things where I appreciated the entire experience with you. It's no, there was no pushiness. It was like, hey, we're going to sit down. We're going to talk with you and Cassie, my wife, and we're just going to have a conversation about what's important to you, where your money's at today, kind of, and think about it. And just through that 15-minute consultation, which you have, thank you, Julia, for correcting the typo, that you can get on Mark's calendar. It was eye-opening, right? And it made me realize where all we had money and why we had it there. I have no idea, but we're on the road to doing exactly what you just talked about. Matter of fact, I didn't know, it seems like every time we talk, I learn something new. I didn't know that year one, there was some cash value in there. I'm sitting here thinking of this apartment deal we got under complex and getting the whole thing. But anyway, I'm going to go back and circle on that. But guys, as we're wrapping up here, please put any questions you have in the chat. While you do that, I'm going to make a couple of announcements. Number one, for whatever reason, the recording button in the top left-hand corner was flashing, but the button at the bottom said it wasn't recording. So I might have missed the first 15 minutes of the presentation.
I hit the button on my side. I can send to you, Jay, if need
be. You're awesome, dude.
Yeah, I
You're
think
awesome.
I did anyway. Yeah.
All right. So, and with that, there was a question on LinkedIn as I was inviting people to come to today. This gentleman answered, he goes, well, I'm over 40, so I don't qualify for this. I don't know where he's been getting his information, maybe from one of these, oh, I can do that, oh, I can't do that guys, or YouTube folks, which I'm on YouTube. I don't really know how I feel about that, but I know what you mean.
Me too.
He's obviously received some bad information. Can you just clarify if there are age restrictions on this type of policy?
40-year-olds are spring chickens, guys. 40-year-olds are spring chickens. You can get a policy up to you're 85 years young. So, I've helped folks up into their 80s start policies. The goal is not the death benefit. If this was old-fashioned life insurance, we'd be getting massive death benefit. And some clients really want that for just legacy or estate planning. But the goal of designing these policies is to squeeze that death benefit down as hard as we can so you can have a lot more cash value. In that case, 40-year-olds, 60-year-olds, totally good to get a policy. You're not too old.
Okay. I don't see any questions. Julia, let me know if I missed anything. I have a question for you, Mark. So I'm going to fill some space here while people were thinking about their questions and possibly popping them in the chat. We talked about getting these policies for our kids and starting one of these. Can you talk about that a little bit? What's involved? What do I need to get to you so we can start this on our three youngins? And because I'm overdue according to my calendar. I was supposed to do this on March 19th. So.
Hey, good for you, man. You got a contract with your future on that calendar.
That's it.
So yeah, you've got the and thank you, Brian. We have a great question. I'll go ahead and tell everybody the email address to send. I'll put it in the chat. Is hello. Thank you for that, Brian. At nyafinancialpodcast.com. That's where you send the email for the 6 key phrases. Hello at nyafinancialpodcast.com. Or you can go to that webpage, that W2Capitalist/bank, fill in the phrases there, and you get to meet with me and you get $50. So double win. Okay. So I see our time is short, so I'll keep it brief, Jay. Why would anyone put a policy on a young child? That seems almost macabre to even think that way. But yeah, guys, we're not talking about the life insurance death benefit portion primarily. This is a building of cash wealth for the family. And yes, someday, generations from now, Jay is going to give to his grandkids through this policy he'll set up on his kids. What a cool gift to give 3 generations into the future like that. And let his children, as they age, have a pool of contingency capital for their real estate deals and their college. All right. So as the policies mature and grow on kiddos, it's an amazing thing. 80 years of uninterrupted compound growth is a sight to behold. It's so cool. It's like a supernova out in space. So Jay, way to go, man. It's a great goal. And yeah, you just need a couple of things, birthday, real simple stuff for kiddo policies.
Okay. It's not as difficult. Like they don't have to do the physical exam.
Nope.
Okay.
Nope.
Yeah. Thank you, Julie. Okay. There is a Mark. Are you on YouTube? Julie just posted a YouTube.
Yeah. That's me. That's mine. Yeah. Yep.
No, my plan is to, set these policies up. And then when they get of a certain age, I don't know, their maturity levels. It's amazing that our 6-year-old is so much more mature than our 4-year-old, than at 4 than our 4-year-old is. It's just incredible. They're all each their own individual person, but when they get of age and they want to invest in something, which I'm gonna be like, okay, if they come to try to hit me up for money, I'm gonna be like, well, let's talk about your policy that you have and the cash value, and let's figure that out. So the idea is to use this as a vehicle to show them how to invest in the future.
Yep.
That's the whole purpose of it. So
you don't want to just create this policy and never talk to them about it. You want to prepare the kids for the money. Don't just prepare the money for the kids.
Love that. And if there are any other questions, you guys put them in the chat. I will be sending out the replay via email later this week as soon as I get the full recording from Mark. So thank you for hitting record on your end. And guys, I want to invite you to come join us in the mastermind as well, the W2 Capitalist Mastermind. Mark talked a lot about the 75 hard that we went through. I can't take credit for that, complete credit for that. This was a member of the mastermind who went through it herself first, and basically started this whole movement. And turned out to be about 9 of us, I think, that went through the whole process. And we had daily accountability tasks and whatnot. Without them, I would have quit maybe 2 weeks in. I mean, if I would have made it that long. So I'm telling you tell you this, get surrounded by people who you want to be like, and kind of like what Mark was talking about earlier, who you want to be in the future, right? And I feel like if you're here today, there was a handful of mastermind members here today. If you are one of those people, come check us out, w2capitalist.com/mastermind. And you can click the button to apply to join us and whatnot. So that's kind of where we're at on that, and why that whole thing came up. That's why we started 75 Hard, was because of those that group accountability, which we get into, not necessarily fitness. It's more of investing, real estate investing. So anyway, all right, Mark, anything else from you, sir?
No, guys are great. Keep scaling your future. Keep hanging out with Jay and people who remind you of your future, not your past. Don't let folks pull you back into the crab bucket of life. Crawl out, get somewhere bigger, somewhere better, see something big, do something great.
Love it. Crab bucket of life. I'm going to have to write that one down, man.
The little claws, they grab, as you're trying to escape, they'll pull you back down. You don't want to hang out with folks that do that to you. So
no, you don't.
Hang out with folks like Jay. And so thank you so much, Jay, for the opportunity. It's been a lot of fun.
Absolutely. I'm going to follow up with you. I'll just email you about what I need to get you for the kids, for sure.
Awesome, man. Very cool.
All right. Julia, thank you for your help today. Really do appreciate it. Everybody, if you have questions, make sure you go to w2capitalist.com/bank and get connected with Mark. And as always, if you have questions about this, you can email me, jay@w2capitalist.com. That's JAY@w2capitalist.com. All right. Thank you, sir. We'll see you soon.
Hey guys. See ya.